The galaxy was vast, an endless sprawl of stars, systems, and civilizations. Yet for all its maps, all its records, there was one place every chart ended. The boundary was marked not by nebulae, not by collapsed stars, but by silence. The border of human space. Every explorer knew the warning. The line where trade routes and star charts stopped carried no elaboration, no footnotes. Just a stark directive burned into history. Do not enter. But power breeds arrogance, and arrogance breeds ignorance. The Kiras Dominion, a rising war empire forged from blood and iron, saw the line not as a warning but as an invitation. They had conquered the Volnari clusters, broken the Shalene defense worlds, and forced half a dozen empires to their knees. Now their leader, Warlord Valek, sought the one prize that remained unclaimed, the space no one else dared to enter. On the bridge of his flagship, the Crown of Victory, the warlord gazed into the abyss beyond the border. His armored frame towered over his officers, his jagged teeth bared in something between a grin and a snarl. "Behold it," he thundered, gesturing toward the empty void ahead. The forbidden frontier. The council trembles before it, merchants whisper of ghosts within it, but his voice rose, echoing across the chamber, "I see only territory unclaimed. Riches unexploited. Fear is their prison, but not ours." His second-in-command, General Kothrek, bowed his head. "The stories say ships vanish here, my lord. That the humans. Humans are myths," Valek spat, his voice laced with contempt. "A species long extinct, if they ever existed at all. Their warning is nothing but superstition, preserved by weaklings too timid to test it. And we will prove it." Around him, his commanders roared in approval. 500 warships stretched behind the flagship in a spear formation, their hulls glowing with the faint red light of Dominion forgefires. It was the greatest invasion fleet in Kiras history, a hammer designed to smash through anything that stood before them. And so, with arrogance as their compass, they crossed the line. At first, nothing happened. Their ships drifted deeper into the forbidden dark, scanners sweeping, weapons primed. No response. No resistance. Just silence and stars. A ripple of unease moved through the crews. Perhaps the council's fears were unfounded, Kothrek muttered. Valek leaned back in his command chair, confidence radiating from his scarred form. "See? Empty space. The humans are dust, their bones scattered. We will claim their systems, strip their worlds, and..." The lights on every bridge flickered. Screens across the fleet spasmed with static. A voice, clear and calm, cut through every frequency at once. "You have crossed into restricted space. Leave immediately, or be erased." The words were spoken in galactic standard, but there was no mistaking the timbre. It was human. A hush fell over the bridge of the Crown of Victory. For a moment, even the warlord himself was silent. Then laughter burst from his throat, rolling like thunder. "An old recording. A ghost's echo," he barked, slamming a clawed fist on the armrest. "They left this warning to frighten children. We are not children. We are conquerors." His crew echoed his laughter, though unease lingered in their eyes. The voice did not return. The silence resumed. But far away, deep in the black, humanity stirred. On a command deck hidden within the void, Commander Ethan Cole stood rigidly before a glowing display. His face was worn, carved with years of silent duty. His eyes were sharp, calculating, the kind of eyes that missed nothing. "Confirmation?" he asked. His voice was low, but it carried the weight of authority. At the console, Captain Sarah Whitfield nodded. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, her posture iron straight. 500 ships. Kiras Dominion. They crossed the boundary 36 minutes ago. And they ignored the broadcast. Ethan exhaled slowly, his jaw tightening. For decades, the humans had waited, hidden, silent, watching the galaxy mock their absence. Their silence had been strategic, their isolation deliberate. The council had laughed at their disappearance, dismissing them as relics of an age-long past. But those who lived inside the border knew the truth. The humans had never left. They had prepared. Ethan gave the order with the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. Awaken the Sentinels. The void shivered. From nowhere, from slipspace folds and cloaked stations invisible to the eye, the warships of Earth emerged. They did not look like the sleek, ceremonial cruisers of the Council races, nor the jagged, brutal designs of the cuirass. Human warships were angular beasts of steel, forged with brutal purpose. They bore scars of battles fought long before these upstarts had risen. They radiated silent menace, their hulls black as the void, their weapons dormant but heavy with promise. The cuirass fleet faltered. Their scanners screamed alarms, unable to detect the ships until they appeared right in front of them. Panic licked at the edges of discipline. On the crown of victory, Velex snarled. "Identify yourselves," he roared across the comms, though his voice cracked with unease. One ship drifted forward, larger than the rest. Its name, etched in white along its hull, gleamed like a ghost from forgotten wars. USS Vengeance. The voice returned, not a recording this time, but a live transmission that carried the cold edge of certainty. "This is your only warning. Leave human space." A chill swept through the Dominion fleet. Officers glanced at one another, fear whispering in their eyes. But Velex's pride was unshakable. He would not yield. "Empty threats," he hissed, his fangs bared. "They dare challenge us with a handful of relics? Fire everything." Across 500 warships, weapons lit up. Plasma lances, missile storms, energy beams, all unleashed in a single blinding storm that tore through the void. The barrage was enough to level continents, enough to drown stars in fire. The humans did not flinch. The barrage slammed into their shields, and the void filled with light. For long seconds, the storm raged. And then, as the glare faded, the truth was revealed. The human ships remained untouched. Their shields shimmered faintly, not strained, not weakened. Just waiting. On the bridge of the USS Vengeance, Captain Sarah Whitfield's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. "Permission to answer, Commander?" Ethan Cole's eyes were steel. He gave a single nod. "Erase them." And with that, the silence of centuries ended in fire. The Vengeance's first shot sliced through the void, a thin beam of white light that cut cleaner than any blade. It pierced the crown of victory from bow to stern. In a heartbeat, the Dominion flagship, 3 miles of steel and power, was reduced to drifting wreckage. The galaxy's newest conquerors had met their first lesson. The lesson was simple. The map ends here. The first shot had silenced the galaxy. The crown of victory, Warlord Velex's pride, had been split in two before his crew even understood what struck them. A single beam from the USS Vengeance had erased the Dominion's flagship as if it were nothing but dust. The explosion burned bright in the void, fragments scattering, fire briefly flaring before the vacuum swallowed it whole. And then, silence. On hundreds of cuirass bridges, the officers froze in disbelief. Their sensors screamed conflicting reports. Their minds denied what their eyes saw. A ship the size of a mountain, a warlord whose voice had shaken empires, gone in an instant. The fleet trembled. "Impossible," General Kothrek whispered aboard the Dominion's second command ship, his claws clutching the armrests. "No weapon exists that could," his words trailed, his fear finishing the sentence for him. But the humans did not pause. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Commander Ethan Cole stood with his hands clasped behind his back, posture rigid, face carved in stone. His officers waited on edge for the next command, the air thick with both fear and anticipation. "Status?" Ethan asked, his voice even. "Shields hold at full capacity," Lieutenant Ramirez reported, his fingers dancing over the console. "Enemy fleet is regrouping. They're hesitating." "They should," Ethan muttered. His gaze was cold, distant, as if looking beyond the moment, beyond the battle. "But hesitation won't save them." At his side, Captain Sarah Whitfield stepped forward, her eyes narrowing at the display of 500 enemy signatures. "They'll break soon. Fear's already tearing at their ranks." Her words proved prophetic. The Dominion fleet surged again, though the unity they once carried fractured. Some captains pushed forward in rage, determined to avenge their warlord. Others pulled back, caught between duty and terror. Their formation, once perfect, splintered into chaos. The humans struck. The sentinels of Earth moved as one. Cloaked in black steel, they slid through the void with predatory grace. Each ship selected its target with surgical precision, their weapons glowing with quiet menace. The Vengeance fired again. A Dominion carrier blossomed into flame, its swarms of fighters cut off before they could launch. Another shot followed, and a destroyer simply ceased to exist, erased by a beam so clean it left no wreckage. Around the Vengeance, her sister ships awakened. The USS Retribution unleashed a salvo of kinetic slugs, rods of dense tungsten hurled at near light speed. They tore through Dominion cruisers like bullets through paper, ripping hulls apart before the enemy shields even registered the impact. The USS Ironclad spread its broadside, missile bays opening like the jaws of some great beast. Hundreds of guided warheads streaked into the void, weaving through enemy defenses, each finding its mark with devastating precision. It was not battle. It was slaughter. The Dominion fought back with everything they had. Plasma bolts lit the dark. Energy beams swept across the void, blinding arcs of fury. Missiles filled space like swarms of angry insects. But the human shields absorbed it all. Every impact flared against a barrier that seemed more like a wall of reality itself than energy. When the glare faded, the ships remained untouched, relentless. On the Dominion's command ship, General Kothrek's voice shook as he screamed into the calms. Concentrate fire. Break their lines. They cannot be invincible. Yet in his heart, he knew. They were not fighting equals. They were prey before predators, insects before giants. Inside the Vengeance, the crew moved with machine-like precision. Orders given, orders carried out. But beneath the discipline, there was no joy, no celebration. Only grim silence. Captain Sarah's voice was sharp as a blade. Cruiser group closing in on our left flank. Permission to sweep? Ethan's jaw tightened. He gave a single nod. Do it. The Vengeance turned with impossible agility, its massive frame gliding as though space itself bent to its will. A single broadside fired, 3 beams cutting across the void. The entire cruiser group, 6 ships strong, disintegrated in less than 3 seconds. On alien bridges, officers screamed. Crews panicked. Some ships tried to flee, engines burning white-hot as they turned toward the border they had crossed so arrogantly. Others continued to fight, desperation stripping them of reason. But to flee was no salvation. Admiral Ramirez reported, his voice almost pitying. Half their fleet is in retreat. Ethan's gaze did not waver. He stared at the stars beyond, his tone as cold as the void. We do not chase. We finish. A ripple of understanding passed across the Vengeance's bridge. Humanity did not give second chances. The cuirass had been warned. They had laughed. Now there would be no retreat, no survivors to carry their arrogance back across the stars. Sarah's hand hovered over the firing command. She hesitated only for a heartbeat, her voice quieter now. Ethan, this will be a massacre. His eyes flicked to hers, unflinching. It already is. End it. The sentinels moved in unison. Their strike was beautiful in its precision, terrifying in its execution. Hundreds of Dominion ships vanished in coordinated bursts of light. Beams lanced across the void, slicing vessels apart. Rail slugs cracked through hulls with shattering force. Missiles erupted into blossoms of fire, consuming destroyers, carriers, dreadnoughts alike. There was no wasted shot. No collateral chaos. Every move was calculated, every strike deliberate. Within 20 minutes, half the Dominion fleet was gone. Within 40, only fragments remained. The last cuirass transmission bled across comms, filled with static and disbelief. General Kothrek's voice trembled with desperation. This cannot be. You were supposed to be gone. The humans extinct. Commander Ethan Cole allowed the channel to remain open. His reply carried through every surviving ship, every dying crew, every corner of the void. Extinct? His voice was low, steady, heavy with centuries of truth. No. Waiting. And then the vengeance fired. The last of the Kiras Dominion fleet ceased to exist. Silence returned. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Ethan stood at the viewport, his reflection cast in the stars. His hands clenched behind his back, his face carved in stone. Around him, his crew breathed in quiet shock. Captain Sarah stepped closer, her voice softer now, stripped of the iron edge it had carried through battle. They'll keep coming. Ethan's gaze didn't waver. His voice was heavy, steady, carrying the burden of inevitability. Yes. And the galaxy will learn, the map ends here for a reason. The galaxy reeled. 500 warships of the Kiras Dominion, an armada powerful enough to shatter whole civilizations, were gone. No distress calls returned, no survivors limped home. Only fragments of intercepted transmissions and the fading echo of a human voice remained. It spread across the trade lanes, through the council chambers, into the darkest corners of pirate dens and smugglers' whispers. The humans were not gone. And worse, they had destroyed an empire's pride with impossible ease. In the vaulted chamber of the Galactic Council, fear warred with arrogance. Alien leaders from across 100 systems gathered beneath the ancient spires, their voices rising in panic. "This cannot stand," hissed the Shalene delegate, his frilled head quivering. "If humans can strike down the Dominion fleet so swiftly, then none of us are safe." Safe, a Volnari matriarch spat, her scaled claws tapping the marble desk. "You think they will remain within their borders? You think they slaughtered 500 ships merely to hide again? No. They prepare for conquest." Others shouted in protest, denial, or trembling agreement. But one truth loomed larger than all their voices: the maps ended for a reason, and none of them understood why. At last, Chancellor Vela of the Airlift spoke, her tone cold, commanding silence. "We cannot bow to myth. If the humans believe they can dictate borders to the galaxy, then the galaxy must answer. We will show them the weight of unity. We will remind them they are but one species." And so, in fear disguised as pride, the Council summoned fleets. Not 500 ships. Not one empire's might. But the combined armada of 5 civilizations, tens of thousands of warships drawn from across the stars. The largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the line where every map ended. And crossed. The void rippled with their presence. Thousands of ships gleamed against the starlight, a sea of engines and weapons, their formation stretching farther than sight. Fighters swarmed like insects, carriers loomed like artificial moons, dreadnoughts bristled with firepower enough to tear apart worlds. Inside their command ships, admirals reassured themselves. They are only one race. They cannot face us all. But on the bridge of the USS Vengeance, Commander Ethan Cole watched the swarm with an expression carved from iron. His hands clasped behind him, his jaw tight, he stood like a statue at the edge of history. At his side, Captain Sarah Whitfield scanned the tactical feed. Her voice was low, almost incredulous. "There must be 20,000 ships out there." The Council threw everything they had. Ethan did not blink. His gaze was steady, his voice calm as the void. "And they still don't understand." The Council fleet advanced, weapons armed. Their admirals barked orders with false confidence, determined to crush the human myth before it grew too large. But then, the stars vanished. Space itself seemed to fracture. The void shimmered, folding, warping. And from the darkness between stars, from cloaked bastions hidden for centuries, from slipspace gates invisible to alien eyes, the human armada emerged. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Legions. Thousands upon thousands of human warships poured into the void. Their silhouettes were sharp, angular, monstrous in scale. They came from every direction, surrounding the Council fleet in a vast sphere of steel and fire. Every alien heart froze. The Council had thought humanity weak, thought them in hiding. But the truth was far worse. Humanity had been building, preparing, sharpening itself in silence while the rest of the galaxy squabbled like children. Now the silence was broken. Ethan Cole's voice carried across every frequency, broadcast to every council ship, every officer, every trembling crew. This is human space. We asked for peace. We warned you. You ignored us. You chose war. His tone hardened, final as the grave. Now you will understand. The human fleet struck. The opening volley was not a battle, it was a storm. Beams lanced through dreadnoughts, splitting them like kindling. Kinetic slugs tore carriers apart, scattering debris across the void. Missiles tracked their prey with impossible intelligence, weaving past defenses to bury themselves in enemy hulls. In the first minute, hundreds of council ships were gone. Alien admirals screamed for counterattack. Thousands of weapons lit up, an avalanche of plasma and fire. But as before, it meant nothing. Human shields shimmered, absorbing the storm. Their formations shifted with machine-like precision, every move calculated, every strike devastating. It was execution, not war. On the council flagship, Chancellor Vela gripped her command chair, her voice shrill with disbelief. This cannot be. We are united. We are more. We cannot fall. Her words went unanswered. Around her, her officers trembled as ship after ship vanished from their screens. The council fleet, mighty and countless, was being shredded in hours. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she watched alien formations collapse. She had seen battles before, but never on this scale. It's not even a fight, she whispered. Ethan's eyes never left the stars. His voice was low, grim. They forced us to show them. Now they will never forget. For 8 hours, the slaughter continued. The galaxy's greatest armada dwindled to ashes. Survivors begged for retreat, for mercy, for terms. None were given. The humans had warned them once, and once was enough. At last, silence fell again. The council fleet was gone. Not defeated. Not scattered. Annihilated. Ethan Cole stood at the viewport, staring into the debris field. His reflection seemed carved into the stars themselves, his shoulders heavy beneath the burden of what he carried. Sarah approached quietly, her voice soft, uncertain. It's done. His eyes flicked to hers, filled with the weight of command, of centuries of silence turned to fire. No. It begins. He turned, activating the fleet-wide broadcast. Across the galaxy, every remaining listening post, every open channel, every trembling world received his words. The galactic map ends at human space for a reason. Cross it, and you will face annihilation. We are not conquerors. We are not tyrants. But we are the wall on which empires break. This is your last warning. Heed it. The transmission ended. And in the silence that followed, a new truth was carved into the galaxy. No empire dared to redraw its maps. No council dared to test the border again. At the edge of Orion's arm, the line remained. The words burned brighter than ever before. Human space, do not enter. Not out of myth. Not out of rumor. But because the galaxy had seen what lay beyond. And those who ignored it faced annihilation.